I was recently cutting up some of my large blocks of labradorite to get some material for carving and jewelry, and I noticed that one of my pieces of scrap was the perfect size and shape to make a heart pendant. It has some great color that covers the entire front face. So to get started, I'm just going to make sure that both faces are perfectly flat, then I can rough out the general shape and draw on my design for reference. Now that I have my shape roughed out and my design drawn on, I'm just going to grind everything down to the outside of the black line. This step is just to make sure that my center line is, well, centered, and I can go back through afterward and really refine the shape. Alright, now that I know everything is centered, I'm going to grind down to the inside of the black line. I'm also going to work the point a bit more and fully round the top to make a spade shape. I'll add the divot with my rotary tool later. Well, that was something. Anyway, now that I have a shape that I'm happy with, I've drawn on center lines on the edges to use as a reference as I round the edges over. I also added a center line on the top for later. Okay, now that I have a good teardrop shape, I can move over to the rotary tool, but before I do that, I'm actually going to sand the edges to get rid of the facets left behind from the diamond plate to make sure everything is uniformly rounded over. You can do this after carving if you prefer, but I prefer to do it now. I'll be wet sanding with 800 grit sandpaper. It's important to keep re-wetting your paper as you go, as it takes considerably longer if you try to sand it dry. It's looking way better now. Now I'll just make sure that my top center line is bold and I can start carving. I'll only need 2 diamond burrs, one with a good edge and a fairly thin one to deepen the notch. Then I'll use a flap sander to get rid of the scratches and polish the stone. Alright, I'd say that's looking great, and the color is really popping out a lot more with the good polish. If you just want to carve a heart without worrying about drilling it to make a pendant, this is actually where you would stop. But because I'm going with a pendant, all I have to do is drill a hole and make a loop. I don't have any loops on me at the moment, so I may have to improvise a bit. Well, I would definitely classify this as improvising. I have wire for wire wrapping, but it's too soft to make a sturdy loop. But luckily I was able to find a steel coat hanger. Not exactly sure why it was here in the shop in the first place, but hey. So I cut a small length off, sanded off the white paint, got it red hot to make it more malleable so I could bend it into shape, and gave it a good polish, and it's good to go. Now I just have to drill the hole and epoxy the loop into place. Okay, now I have my hole drilled, and it's important to make sure that it's fairly deep so that the loop is nicely anchored. But as you can see, I made the post of the loop a little too long, so I'm going to cut a bit off so it sits lower and come right back. Alright, that's just about perfect now. I wanted the top of the loop to sit right in the base of the notch in the heart. I also went ahead and roughed up the post with a diamond file so that the epoxy I'm going to use will grip onto the metal a bit better. Well, here it is. That labradorite looks wonderful. At this point, you would add your cord or chain to make a necklace, but I'm giving this to my girlfriend, and I kind of need her here to figure out how high or low she wants it to sit. I have a big project that I'm working on that I am finally on the home stretch with that's going to be far bigger video than anything I've done so far, and I'm very excited to show you all. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll have another one out for you all soon.